In a world where extreme competition exists everywhere, what does it take to have success in your career and in life? Join me, Nirvana Chaudhary, as I sit down with some of the most successful individuals to discover the secrets to their success, what continues to drive them, and to hear a few exclusive stories in the process. What drives them and their success code, their mantra for making it bigger. Hello everyone, this is Nirvana Chaudhary. I'm back with my podcast, Making It Bigger. Today I have with me someone who's been such a dear friend to me over the last 2 decades. Someone I've had the opportunity of working so closely with. One of the most successful CEOs in our country, an inspiration and role model to the millions of youth in our country. I have with me Mr. Anil Shah. Mr. Shah, thank you so much for coming in my podcast. I really appreciate it.
So, thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm really looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to it for some time. I listen to every one of your podcasts and learn something from each and every one of them. So it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shah. In Nepal, you are definitely an icon. I've seen you up close, personal, in person. You have that heart where nationalism and pride of being a Nepali stands right on top, right? And that is why I think from the work that you do and an inspiration to the youth that you are, people follow and people listen to the things that you say, especially resonating and talking about Nepal as a country. Now, tell me, as a banker, as an individual, what is it that really drives you? What is your success mantra?
That's really interesting because, one of my mentors, Mr. Binod Chaudhary, has a book called Making It Big. His son, Nirvan Chaudhary, has a vision statement called Making It Bigger. So I start with asking every individual, what does it mean to you to make it big? Because Binod Chaudhary, what it means to him to make it big is very different from what Mr. Nirvan Chaudhary thinks about when he's talking about making it bigger. And Anil Shah, in my context of making it big, and so Ram, Sham, Sita, Gita, is very different. A lot of times I find youth and people running after someone else's big, and that may not be your big. So my success mantra is something called a happiness formula. And I've been doing this for decades now. I truly believe the objective of everybody's life is to be happy. And that happiness, to me, is something very different than it is to you as it is to each and every one of the listeners to this podcast. But there are 5 ingredients that go into making happiness. And those 5 ingredients are the same, but how much of each ingredient you require is very different. The first ingredient is family and friends. To some people, family and friends is very important. Mr. Chaudhary just went on a vacation with his family. I have never seen him so happy in years. It is very important. While for some of us, when we are with family or with friends, we're always thinking of something else, and we're always thinking, why should we be doing this or I should be doing that? And we believe we do it because for family and friends after all. So how important are family and friends for you? The second one is money and economic wealth. A lot of people smile when I say this. A lot of people believe, yes, that's the one. That's what I need, money and economic wealth. While a lot of people come up to me and say, Anilji, I understand everything else, but how does money make you happy? Money gives you hypertension, blood pressure, and ulcers, but money doesn't make you happy. What about you? How much money and economic wealth? The third ingredient of happiness is health. To be healthy, physically, emotionally, psychologically. Nobody wants to be unhealthy, but how much time and effort do you give to be healthy? Do you meditate? Do you eat right? Do you exercise? What is it that you do to be healthy? Some people say, Anilji, when we are your age, we will think about health. For now, it's just wealth. But I know 14, 15-year-olds who say, my body is a temple. I meditate, I eat right, I do the things that make me healthy all the time. What about you? The fourth one is power, status, and authority. For some of us, it is very important. Just imagine Anil Shah walked into an MBA, MBS, or any college or youth gathering, and nobody knew who he was. How would Anil Shah feel? Not very happy puppy. But for some people, this power, status, and authority is a demotivator. They don't want it. They want to work hard, they want to deliver, but they don't want to go out in front of crowds, make all this loud noise, be in the spotlight and all. What about you? How much does power, status, and authority make you happy? And the fifth one is your relationship with God and greater good. Look at Chaudhary Foundation. Look at Chaudhary Group. There are many groups making lots of money. Why is there a Chaudhary Foundation? Why is this group committed to doing something for the greater good? Because that is what makes the group happy. That is what makes the leaders in that group happy. So what about you? How much does your relationship with God and the greater, doing something for the greater good, make you happy? These are the 5 ingredients of happiness.
Wow.
Family and friends, money and economic wealth, health, power and status, greater good and God. What you need to do to find out what is your success mantra is find out how much of each ingredient you require to be happy. And then you choose a life that takes you every day towards meeting those ingredients. If family and friends is what makes you happy, don't start a business or join a bank. Because the one thing I can tell you is you will not have time for family and friends. If money is what makes you happy, don't do social service. You make great name, oh, what wonderful work he's doing. No money, no happiness for you. So, but that's not, don't try to follow what Anil Shah is doing or Nirvan Chaudhary ji is doing or what Vinod Chaudhary ji is doing. Find out what is your happiness formula, because that is your unique success mantra.
So the individuality, right? The individual, and Anil,
exactly,
Mr. Shah, I think it's amazing the way what you're saying and your mantra, because I think you have pretty much summarized all my last 15 podcasts into one, right? And it's amazing how successful people have these traits which are just inbuilt. And people, trust me, when I'm talking to people, their perception about success and the mantras are completely different. I mean, what you just talked about, which a lot of people that I've spoken to talked about, are such basic, fundamental aspects of life. Now, tell me one thing, something I've been really, really intrigued with, right? Anil Shah, growing up, assistant director at Paramount Pictures, okay? I mean, if you would have pursued that path, I'm sure it was hardworking, but I'm sure it's a very entertaining, sector as well. First tell me a little bit about how this Paramount assistant director thing came. But more importantly, please connect that with, from there, why Nepal and why stick to Nepal? I mean, you can be anywhere in the world. Anil Shah can be anywhere in the world, in the top companies, doing everything. But why come back to your own country?
Okay, Paramount Pictures was definitely an interesting little chapter, a footnote in my life, I would say. I'd done my bachelor's, my BBA from America. I'd come back because I was 16 when I started my bachelor's. I was only 20 when I graduated. I wanted to do my MBA, but the advisor there said, no, you work first for a few years. America allowed 2 years practical training visa then. I said, I'll take half your advice. I will take 2 years off and work, but I will go back to Nepal and work. Why Nepal? I could give you these motherhood statements that I love this country, it's in my blood, and so on and so forth. But actually, Nirvan, what it is people want what they didn't get. Me and my brother, we never got to grow up in Nepal. My mother was in the Foreign Service. My dad was in the UN. We went to 9 different schools in different places. We never studied in Nepal. So I always wanted to come back and see what this country is all about, what my roots are all about. And those 2 years, I said, let me try it out. If I don't like it, I won't go back. If I love it, I'm going to stay. That's where my life is going to be. And when I came back and I was looking for a job, I met a bunch of Americans roaming around trying to make a movie from Paramount Pictures and Walt Disney. The movie is called Night Train to Kathmandu. You can look at it on YouTube. And got together with them. I had just done management, and it was the first time I got to actually apply that management, because they wanted someone to facilitate the making of that movie in Nepal. It was shot in Tengboche, in Bhaktapur, in all over Kathmandu, and so on and so forth. So I really got to use those skills which I had learned about how to manage different sorts of things, put many balls in the air, so on and so forth. And I loved it as well. But then I thought, is this what I want to do with my life? Because I'd done international business in finance in my BBA. So I thought, wait a minute. Let's try to get back to what I studied. And I went to EC Moore and became a financial analyst after making this movie. Now, it could have gone either way. If I had gone with the movie, and those people said, why don't you continue doing this? Come back with us. At that time, much easier to go back to the States and work than it is now, so on and so forth. And it was very tempting. It was really very tempting. But then I thought, wait a minute. There's a reason I'm back here. Let's not lose focus. I'm back here to see what does Nepal have to offer for me, and can I give something back to Nepal as well? And that's why I continued as a financial analyst in EC Mode, and the rest is history with doing my MBA and continuing in banking. Now, the Nepal factor, as initially it was the uniqueness of wanting to do something that I hadn't had the opportunity. But then when I came back and I started to work here, what I want to say is, I'm not the first generation who went abroad in my family. My grandfather was the first Nepali who went and did his master's in America, in Michigan. And he did it in electrical engineering. And he came back and built some of the first hydroelectric plants in Nepal as the chief engineer. My mother was the first Nepali woman who went to America. She did a bachelor's in Barnard in Columbia University and a master's in Johns Hopkins. Came back, joined the Foreign Service, and became the first woman ambassador of Nepal, and that too to India. My dad also, after doing his medicine, went to Johns Hopkins and did his medicine. They met there, fell in love, and that's why, I am here in the world. So I felt if my parents have gone there, it's called brain gain, I think. You learn something there, you come back here and you implement it. And yes, thank you so much for the confidence. I too believe that if I was working in Dubai or New York or wherever it is, I would be making as much, if not more money. Economically, I'd be as stable as I am over here. But let me tell you one thing. Nirvan Chaudhary would not be making a podcast with me over there. Because I would be one of many people who are there for economic gain, it's again the happiness formula thing, making lots of money, driving that BMW, having those vacations on those yachts. But I would not have millions of youth look at me and say, this is a candle that is giving light, from which I will grow my life. And for me, that has become very important now. For me, it's not, I will always be remembered as someone who did amazing things in banking, I hope. Was part of amazing teams, was part of a bank called Nabil Bank, and together we transformed this bank to become an amazing financial institution. But that's not enough for Anil Shah. Anil Shah now moving forward, and already I think the time has come for, as you rightfully said, for the youth, when they look at me, a lot of them look at me and say, we want to be like that because we want to make as much money. But then a lot of them look at me and say, we want a mustache like this guy. This is the sort of thing that we want. But a lot of them also look at me and say, hey, this is someone who really gave back to the youth, gave back to this country. And so it's a mixture. Like when they look at you, yes, they say, oh, this is Binod Chaudhary, his son, Nirvan Chaudhary. But when they know you, they say, my God, here's a person who literally making it bigger in his own way. And by making it bigger, people ask me, does he mean he's going to make more money? I say, no, you got to know him, man. He means much more than that. He means much more. He's going to make a lot of money, but that's not what drives Nirvan Chaudhary, because that's what your happiness formula is. And similarly, Ram, Shyam, Sita, Geeta has their own happiness formula. Figure it out. We're all in a bus station. We all have different destinations. When you're standing in a bus station and someone asks you, why are you here? Nobody says, I'm here to ride a red bus or a blue bus or the bus with the reclining chair. Everybody says, I'm here to ride a bus to Biratnagar or to Pokhara or to Jhapa, wherever you're going. So unless you know where you're going, how do you know which bus you're going to get onto? And that is your happiness formula. The happiness formula will tell you which bus you need to get onto. Once you know that, the rest of it is just tapasil. It's just a footnote.
It's incredible. I'm just completely mesmerized listening to you. And you're just speaking everything from your heart, right? Like, I want to ask you something, and it's my last question. I'm not going to ask you about a message to the youth, etc., because you've spoken that a lot. I really... Whenever I see you on social media, etc., the photo or a post that makes me most happiest when you're with your daughter, right? I can relate it to so much. Tell me, you're someone who's spiritually, I think you're just up there. You believe in the power of a bigger force. You're religious in your own ways. How do you, in the new generation, right, which is very, very challenging. I mean, your kids are much, much older than mine, but how do you, someone who's very dynamic and in the business world, corporate world, at the same time very spiritual, how do you embed that into the next generation? How do you make sure that they're also, it's so important, the entire element of spirituality that you talked about, the 5th point in your top 5 success points. How do you do that?
Yeah. I think talking is not enough. You've got to walk the talk. The reason I am the way I am in terms of my religious beliefs, in terms of my spirituality, this need to be connected to something bigger than all of us, is because of my grandmother. Both my parents worked, so I spent the formative years of my life in the lap of my grandmother. Grandmothers were very religious. She did the Swastani Puja 2 times a day. She was praying, all sorts of things like that. So subconsciously, this became embedded in me. I could have, of course, believed that just by praying, everything will happen. And, I just keep going to temples and praying, but I don't believe that. You have to use your brain, you have to use your brawn. But if God is on your side, it doesn't hurt as well. So I am a very, physically a religious man in terms of not going to temples all the time, but I pray at home. I have baby. She used to sit with me in my prayer room before she went to school, so on and so forth. When she's at home, she's doing the group with me and all. So it has become subconsciously part of her. That is the way to do it, I think. I don't think by forcing her to come to temples with me or coming to the prayer with me, it would be a pushback. You know how teenagers get, how children get. If you tell them, If you show them that this is what I'm doing, and we've had conversations, why are you doing this? Is God responsible for who Anil Shah is today? I say, in a way, yes, but not only God. I am also responsible. The confidence I have to speak here, to do whatever I'm doing, is because I believe God is with me. But just because God is with me, if I don't do anything and sit back and say God will take care of everything, nothing is going to happen as well. So I think you've got to walk the talk, especially with the youth today. Just saying it is not, they're not going to believe it. You have to do it. The reason I came back to Nabil is one of the main reasons is exactly that. The confidence that the joint venture partner had, the board had, the team had in me meant that I can do something here. And I can prove to youth yet again that we can stay in Nepal and we can do something. I want to end with something, it took us some time to have a child, about 5 years, over 5 years. And before we had the child, we used to go for Dasai Tika. And everyone used to give that Asirvad, like, Dana Kana, Tacos with or something. I have lots of children. And after 3-4 years, they started to get tired when we didn't have any kids. But when we finally had a kid, I said, I'm going to tell them all that we have a kid. I had a daughter. That's exactly what I wanted. One child. I wanted a daughter. Went there, they put the tika and said, and what's up about your family? I said, yes, we have a child. They were so happy. And they said, oh, you must have a son. I said, no, I have a daughter. I was so happy. And they looked at each other. They were disappointed. And I saw the disappointment, and they saw in me that disappointment, raising anger at their disappointment. And they said, no, don't worry. Your daughter will be just like a son. And I looked at my father, I looked at him, and I folded my hands and said, Risani ma, can I please tell you one thing? And they said, yes, please say. And I said, look, I don't want my Nepal to be Singapore or Switzerland. I want my Nepal to be the best version of Nepal. And I don't want my daughter to be a son. I want my daughter to be the best version of a daughter. And that's what I wish for everyone. To be the best version of whoever you're going to be, to follow your happiness formula, and to be the happiest version of whoever you are.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shah. This is, I've always treated you like an older brother as well. And every time I'm speaking to you, I'm learning so much. I'm sure so many people listening to this will learn so much like I have. Thank you so much for your time, and I really look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good evening.